Yo, 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 what is going on, IK fam? And I'm back again today for another dope video, and I'm pretty excited because in today's video, I really wanted to switch it up and take a different approach on something we can talk about, because this is a question I get all the time, and I thought it would be great to cover this in a video where we can really, talk some things out and hopefully provide some different perspectives. Now, before we start, as always, if you guys enjoy the contents of the channel, give us a like, hit that notification bell to get updates when we have new videos coming out. And then, of course, in the description down below, you can find official Infinity Kingdom resources if you guys want to check out our Discord server for IK and other. You're more than welcome to join. And then, lastly, if you want to support the channel and use the download link for Infinity Kingdom, whether you have Android or iOS, that's at the top of the description below. Now, what I'd like to talk about today, and just start off talking a little bit about, is what is the kind of purpose and point of Kingdom Builders, right? What are some of the goals that new players and even veterans, right, should have when they come in to a Kingdom Builder or even a new one, right? For us kind of using IK as that primary example, is that when and let me preface even before I start there, right? When I started out playing, games like Art of Conquest, Lords Mobile, right, Kingdom of Avalon, right, Lords of Kings, other games that are kind of in this Kingdom Builder genre, right, before I even got into Rock, right, a lot of it was me just kind of learning and navigating what to do in these games. It really wasn't until I played Rock or Rise of Kingdoms, previously Rise of Civilizations, that I really immersed myself more into what the actual games had to offer on a Kingdom Builder level, right? Because when I started out playing these other games, it was more of, it kind of felt like a Farmville, so to speak. Like, it was still fun upgrading the building, my buildings and everything, but I didn't really get the full experience because part of it is I just didn't know. I didn't look or care to look at what the games had to offer on these other features that were available in the game for me to take advantage of. And then later on, when I got into Rock, right, before they even announced Kingdom vs. Kingdom, right, the game was just fun because you got put onto a map, right, you had these sectionalized provinces and tiers that you were in, and as you progressed, you were able to advance farther on this map, and the goal was to try and, win the kingdom over, and control structures and other objectives, and then eventually get to the middle, and control kind of the main building, so to speak. And while you're doing that, you're fighting other alliances along the way, trying to win, and all of that's fun. It is, until you get to a point where you start realizing that fighting internally within the game is actually extremely detrimental to what your future and your overall enjoyment and satisfaction that you could get out of the game beyond your immediate short-term outlook of, oh, hey, I'm having fun fighting these players and other alliances in this game I just started playing for however long, right, as this new service developing along its timeline, is almost meaningless, right? And I say that coming from a perspective of when you are looking at how a map is developing, right? And again, I'll give you the IK example here, is that, you going and fighting other alliances all over the place, all that's doing is making you use resources that you could have been using to progress your accounts, meaning that you're now delaying how fast you will be able to get to Castle 40, get the rest of your buildings to 40. It'll delay now how much longer it's going to take for you to reach max Academy Tech. It'll delay how long it's going to take for you to hit VIP 10. It's going to delay how long it'll take for your primary troop power to eventually become strong enough to attack higher level cities based on their garrison powers, and then a plethora of other things as well. Now, it's not to say that some fighting cannot be beneficial to the development of your server or your kingdom, but doing it in a way which is not organized or controlled is just lawless. It's just a civil war. And the big reason is because information and knowledge is probably the most vital instrument that alliance leaders and people that are helping to manage a server really have the benefit and the advantage to do. Which means that these are things that if you are not taking time to educate your players, as far as teaching them good practices and tips when it comes to how you are going to teach players and bring them up to speed on things like PvP tactics and mechanics, how you're going to do kind of, micro to kind of macro strategy overall when it comes to preparing for something like an SVS or a KVK. I can't tell you how many kingdoms I've been in or servers I've played in where people, the immediate thing they'll tell you is, it's a war game, I want to fight. I hear that all the time, right? It's like, everyone on the server's kind of doing their own thing, right? It's this group or that group, right? Doesn't necessarily control the server or whatever, and that's fine, right? If people want to view it that way, that's okay. Because again, the thing I always keep in mind is that there are multiple ways to play a server out or a kingdom, right? Not every server and not every kingdom is going to be ran, managed, or dealt with, if you want, the same way. And I think that's one of the best things about this genre is that I can't get everything I get out of a kingdom builder in any other genre. If I go play a shooter game, I can't get this, right? Because everything's real time. There's nothing kind of really grand strategy that's mapped out, right, that you're going to be playing, right, because your matches are short. If I go to play an RTS game, I'm not going to get the same satisfaction that I would in a kingdom builder, right, because it's just a different genre, right? So it has its own viewpoint on how you're going to play those games. Right, if I want to play a farming simulator or something like that, right, that's kind of single player based offline, I'm not going to get the same satisfaction, right? I get so many things out of kingdom builders because there's so much that happens from the beginning to the middle to even the late game that you are constantly, like, these games are a little bit more kind of like MMO RPG as far as something a little similar of a genre that you would find other areas that you're going to be involved in when it comes to things like diplomacy, recruiting, war prep, right, your AVA, which is kind of like an arena example, so to speak, right, you are really immersing yourself into everything these types of games have to offer, and that's why when you are going into a server, it is important to realize that, right, your primary objective, right, like, let me tell you, when I get into a kingdom builder, my first thought is not, hey, who am I going to go wreck today, right, or hey, who am I going to go attack today? No. My thought is, how am I going to learn how to best maximize my account in this game in hopes of what features and game modes or game types are going to later come out if they are not already in it, right? And that is how I look at it, because if I'm going to go into a game and I'm going to look at how can I get my account to 40 as fast as possible, how can I get max tier troops, how can I max my academy out, how can I climb VIP as fast as I can, right? How can I do all of these things, which are a lot of common and commonalities that you're going to find across other kingdom builder games, right? And then, right, how can I do other things, like as the example we usually give people now, right, which is, make at least one farm account so you can do the honor farming. That way you don't have to worry so much about hitting players or fighting. It actually makes it so you can progress your account faster, and then you can eliminate the unnecessary PvP that you may want to do. Now, for players, like, let's say, that want a PvP, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to fight, you want a PvP, right, then my recommendation is, find a server or put a big group together and make a statement and let people know, like, hey, if you guys want to just do nothing but fight, go to this server, right, when this new server comes out. That's all we're going to be doing here. And then promote it. Don't be, like, subtle and sneaky about it, where you're just going to go into a server and you're just going to fight all day long. And the reason I say that, I think it's professional courtesy, right, is because the way I try and look at it is that when I'm going into a new server, right, there are so many players that are also going to be joining new servers. And these new players, right, if you enjoy the game, regardless if it's on the PvP end or if it's on other ends of the spectrum, the common denominator is that you enjoy Infinity Kingdom. And if you want Infinity Kingdom, right, and you want new servers to keep coming out as often as they do, if you want the game to stay, as active as it is, right, that all comes down to player retention overall. and how people's experiences are in the game. And sure, don't get me wrong, in the short term, it's fun, right? I can see that, where it's like, okay, if I just went into a new server, I'm sure, and all I wanted to do was just fight and do PvP all day long and attack anyone and everyone. Okay, sure, right? That could be fun, for maybe a little bit. But over time, if all you do is fight, you're just going to keep losing players, right? Like the primary example we always give is if you look at like server 5, and I think even server 11 might have a little bit of that now too. I don't know if that's been rectified, but even if we just look at server 5 as the example, right? They've been fighting non-stop, 24/7 like 7-Eleven since day one, and now they're really left with just 2 active alliances, and both of the alliances aren't fully active as far as having 100% player participation in the non-stop fighting. Like, it's you take a city, and that's what they do daily. It's just constant city taking and then retaking, and then constant city hitting. Players are getting zeroed over and over all the time. And yeah, maybe that's fun for like a select hardcore niche group, but I know players that have gone to war servers, 5 as an example, and others, and it is subjective based on each person, right? Because some people are going to love to do it nonstop, and other people are going to love to do it for a small amount of time, and then they're going to think to themselves, why did I move here? And so those are things that I think it is also good to take in mind and in consideration, right? When you're looking at what your focus should be going into a kingdom builder, when you're going into a new server, right, and things that you're hopefully looking forward to. Because, to be frank, the only things, like we've said in the beginning of the video, that really matter are server versus server, kingdom versus kingdom, and then alliance versus alliance if they come out with something like that, right? Those are the 2 most important things, right, with your KVK and SVS kind of being the more priority there. Mainly just because typically that's usually the bigger scale thing that allows for more participation than the smaller version of where you're having, a set lineup or a team for your alliance versus alliance matches. Now, given that's the most important thing to look forward to, right, that is hopefully what servers should be building towards. Because keep in mind, it's fun if you want to fight in your server and cause mayhem or civil wars or whatever it may be. But it's even more enjoyable when you get the satisfaction of going into a server versus server or a KVK and you just wreak havoc on other kingdoms, right? Because that's usually all it is. It's free for all, right? The moment that you're able to start meeting up with other players and attacking them, you're just hitting people nonstop left and right. That is really where, if you want to flex yourself, you want to show off, how big your biceps and triceps are, that's really where you go. Right, if you want to strut your stuff, you don't do it in the server that you're starting out in. You do it in SVS and KVK, right? That's where people who really want to make a name for themselves will do it. And that's where you're going to get a lot of your respect. That's where you're going to earn a lot of your valor, right? You want to get some clout. You really want to make a name for yourself. That's where you do it. You don't do it in your home server, right? That's minor league kid stuff, right? If you want to really play at the big boy level, right, or girl level, of course, because we're always neutral, is that, right, you want to look towards these things, right? For me, that's all I'm looking at. That's all I care about, right? And even though SVS and KVK and AVA and these things aren't out yet, and they've only been teased, right, that's always been my goal and my team's goal that we always work towards, because it is only a matter of time until these features come out in the game, with how popular the game is getting, with the volume of incoming traffic, with how frequent new servers are opening up. These are all testaments to the overall progress of Infinity Kingdom. And sometimes it's just a matter of putting yourself in the right frame of mind on what is important and what is not important, or what is a want versus a need. And, and again, some people might, like I said, whether you agree or disagree, right, it's all a matter of perspective, and it's subjective to each individual, right? Some players, like I've said, just want to do nothing but PvP. That's fine. That's cool. Right? But just do that on a server where you can really enjoy doing that on. And, again, people might sit here and be like, well, boss, what happens if we all go to a new server and, it's just a couple individuals? Well, that's when, you make a statement, you let people know, right? Sometimes it's just a matter of explaining things to players. So, because some people might come into a server and they might fight, and they just think like that's just the way the game is, right? They might not have any necessary ill intent, but maybe they don't have experience playing Kingdom Builders. Maybe they don't know that there's other things to really focus on, to where when the time comes, you can really let loose and go harder than you ever would have been able to go in your home server when you get into that SVS or KVK map, right? Depending on how they end up working it, right? But sometimes it's just a matter of message someone, right? Take some time just to inform them, let them know how things are, right? And more often than not, you might find that players are really receptive to that, right? If they can really understand kind of what the big picture is. And then, of course, you may run across just rogue players who just want to do nothing but fight. Shout out to my boy Bad Warrior, right? And, those are players or people that, you can just have fun zeroing left and right all the time, especially if you have players on your server that, are some of the bigger players or the biggest players, and they can act as those deterrents, right, against those rogue players, right? Those are always, right, and of course it's easier said than done, because of course you have to have players that, one, are wanting to kind of build the kind of server that you want to, but then they're also willing to help out, and they want to participate and contribute in, mitigating some of that damage that could be caused by rogue players on a new server. So yes, some of it does come down to luck, and other times it comes down to, you just preparing ahead of time. Right, and again, like for anyone who's doing a jumper project, right, that's one of the big benefits you can have. Is the hope is that you'll have some big players that are in your project or in your group, to where when you land in a new server, right, you can have that safety net there, because you hopefully may have the biggest players or the strongest players in the server, where they can go around, and anyone who's just doing nothing but just nonstop attacking, they can go and basically just mark those players that are rogue nonstop 24/7. So, anyways, I'm sure I probably did a little bit, if not a good amount, of rambling and probably talking on different sections. And really, this was just my thoughts on kind of how to approach Kingdom Builders. Things you can experience from the beginning to the end of them. What are some of the big goals to kind of focus on, and how you're going to be looking at starting a server out. I hope you guys enjoyed, as always, on any of these kind of general rants, so to speak, from my own experience and time that I've spent playing Kingdom Builders and things I've learned. Hopefully, you guys find it enjoyable, if not at least, a worthy listen. And then until next time, we'll catch you guys later. Peace!